Working. I think it's possibly working. I have zero idea of whether or not this is working. I'm trying to do this on my computer again, and it doesn't work every week. So if it is working, I'm going to say, this is Sunday Night Teacher Talk with CJ Reynolds, and what I'm trying to do here is minimize your freak outness by doing a live feed on Sunday nights to talk about teacher stuff. There goes the not so secret wife. You're always creeping around over there. I don't know if this is, it says I'm live. Now, whether or not it's actually going onto YouTube, I have no idea because I can't see any comments or anything. So, but it says people are watching. So
There's no comments.
unless, no, I'm not, that wouldn't, I just want to make sure that I'm on there.
Yeah,
You see it? Am I on there? I'm working. It works on the computer this time. Look at that. How awesome. So it's Sunday night. And while people are like signing on, I want to say that I got this really great thing in the mail the other day from YouTube. Because, should I talk about this now?
No, wait until.
Should I wait until a little bit? All right, I'm going to tell you what's going on in a little bit. But this week, so I did put a video out finally last week talking about my my madness. I don't know how to get that to work on here. So I'm going to, you want to use my phone? All right, so sorry. This is like, we're like the
technical difficulties live.
we're like the Indiana Jones version of a YouTube channel. I'm just trying to make it work while we're doing this. So last week I talked about how now the speaker's on in there. So I'm coming through the speaker in the kitchen. This is a real crack team operator. I mean, we're like, if we were Ocean's 11, we would have been caught already. So last week I put out this video, or the other day I put out this video about how my week was going really tough. This time of year was really tough. I got my back that hurts. And, this time of year is just, it's a drag in a lot of ways. There's just so much stuff going on. And so I wasn't really sure like how to deal with that. And first of all, I just want to say, like, everyone that sent messages and comments and DMs and personal messages and text messages, like, that was really nice. I didn't do it for that reason, but it makes me excited to be a part of a community where people are sharing things and connecting with one another. And even in the comment section of this broadcast last week, where people were answering questions. And usually that's just my friend Kate, the Sleepy Teacher, answering everyone's questions because she's like that extroverted and awesome. But a lot of folks were doing that. And I think that this is a really great platform for that. So while we're getting geared up, what are you worried about this week? Or not just worried about, or what are you concerned about? What can we talk about? What ideas do you have for the week? I would be happy to like be able to help you with whatever I can. For me this week, we got out of school early the other day because it was freezing cold. The heater stopped working. So they let us out of school at 10:30 in the morning, which I didn't leave. I stayed just like most of the other teachers and hung out. I got a bunch of stuff done that has been like really on my mind. Like I made this coat rack for my boys because they leave all their coats in my room because everyone's locker is like this big. And so you could fit a book in there, not a giant overstuffed winter coat. So I let them leave all their stuff in my room. So I made a coat rack for them. I got some other stuff organized. I'm in the middle of making a skateboard rack, but I didn't have enough skateboards to make it, like to space it out correctly, because I have all these dudes that also ride skateboards to school, and they usually just leave them in the corner, and I can't deal with that messiness. I need like order in my room. So I'm in the middle of making that, and I fixed my couch again with duct tape because it just keeps falling apart, because 4 giant dudes at a time sitting on my couch equals kind of messed up couch. Are you trying to get that thing to work? So a lot of that got done. It made me feel really good that day. It was the same day that I was there working on the video. Sometimes I think just bringing order to the clutter around you just makes your world feel better. And then today I did a podcast with LED Lighthouse. You can find that on, I'll put it in the comment section below, but they are doing like podcasts around educators. And we talked about the importance of building relationships, why you should build relationships with your students, what happens if you don't want to build relationships, like you feel like you're more what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know, I'm not listening to you.
You're not listening to me? Wife, seriously, this is like a microcosm. Like we're on the internet. You gotta pretend like you're listening to me.
Sorry.
Dude, so what was I saying?
I don't know.
Oh, I was saying, good point. Thanks. For people that are introverted, what do you think? We talked about the state of education as a whole right now. Like, what do I think about, where education's at right now? So it was a really interesting conversation and really interesting podcast. I'll let you know when I think it's coming out. But are we going to talk about this now? Because I'm super excited about this thing, right? So YouTube sends me a package in the mail the other day because I recently reached 10,000 subscribers. And I don't know that they've ever done this for anyone else. Ever. Period. Let alone teachers on YouTube. So people really have no idea if you're really sitting there. There could be no one sitting next to me. There it is. There's the hand. So I got this in the mail. I got a plaque for reaching 10,000 subscribers. They sent me, I don't think anyone else ever gets these. Like, I never saw anyone. And it makes me excited, because Pocket Full of Primary is just about to get her play button. She's going to reach 100,000 subscribers, but I don't even think she got one of these. I don't, Megan at Too Cool for Middle School has, a lot of people have 10,000 subscribers or more, but I'm just saying, YouTube, if you're watching this, if anyone at the home office is watching this right now, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for watching this. It's really not about numbers for me. It's really about like the true connections that I'm making. And even if I never got another subscriber, honestly, for the rest of my life, that would be fine with me because I'm really just building these connections with folks. And then hopefully you all are going out and building connections with people too. So YouTube, thanks so much. I appreciate it. I feel like I'm going to hang this on my classroom wall and
the next 10,000.
Yeah, to the next 10,000. Well, then they'll probably send me an even nicer one because this one looks like it's made out of plywood or something like that. But and a tin can maybe. But thanks. The chicken soup wasn't for nothing. All right. On to the questions. What do we got, wife?
There you go.
So first up, Nicholas Jameson is saying, I have a question, please, which I've been thinking about for a few days. I'm a student teacher, and I've been in class. I've been with my class on and off from October. Last Friday, I told them next Friday is my last day.
Emotions are right underneath.
So does it keep going? No. Emotions are high for students and alike. Any advice, please? Thanks. So Nicholas, I would first ask, what's the story? Like, if you can talk about that, why are you leaving? And even without, yeah, he's student teaching. So he's done student teaching?
I'm assuming.
So if you're done student teaching, here's what I would suggest you do with that. Depending on what kind of school you're in, right? I think students, especially in like, I teach it. So let me answer it like this. I teach in a Title I school. I'm always pleading with people to not leave. Like, if you don't feel like it's your true calling, if you don't feel like you can really do it anymore, I don't ever want anyone to stay in the classroom that doesn't want to be in the classroom. I think that is even worse for the students. But in a situation like yours, or like in a situation like someone got pregnant, or they're moving, or they're doing what's best for their family, or they can make some more money somewhere else and make things better for their family. Like, there's a ton of good reasons to leave a school. I'm not saying no one should ever leave a school. But when you do, and when you teach in a school that lacks consistency, whether it's because of the staff, because of parents, because, mom's trying to work 2 jobs, and so she can't be home all the time, and that consistency is not there, or dad's not around, or you've had to move a lot, whatever it is, I think it's really important to let kids know, like, to give them space to just talk about the situation. I think too often young people aren't listened to, and that just having someone that's going to let them share and be vulnerable and talk about their situation could really, really mean something. I think on your end, it might be really interesting to, if not all the students, because that could be a lot, pick certain students, kids that you think were flying under the radar, kids you think you really connected with, and make them a little something. I don't think buying something is necessary, but you could just make like write a card. I like drawing cards. I like making ridiculous stuff, obviously. So I would like draw some kind of ridiculous picture of like you and them, or put a picture of you and them in something and write something out about how they meant something to you, how much they, you know, made your experience richer, how they were memorable to you. And just doing something like that is something the kids can hold on to. They can read it over and over again, as opposed to just saying it to them. So that might be a really fun idea. And then maybe if you can, you know, if your cooperating teacher would allow you, maybe have like a party at the end of it. Have, you know, like a cereal day, like I'm always talking about, or new idea, pancake day, because I just got a new stove and I don't need my old griddle thing anymore. So we're going to have pancake day. Does it have any educational value? Nope. Is it super fun? Kids will remember it forever? I think so, because I'm going to go on a limb and say not a whole lot of other teachers are making pancakes in the room, probably because it's dangerous and you shouldn't have kids near heating elements, but it'll still be fun. And I'm looking for, are you laughing at me? I really like, my wife doesn't laugh at me all the time anymore. So I appreciate it when she does. Probably because she's been hearing the same jokes for 23 years. So that's my idea for that one. And also, congratulations and like good luck in your next endeavor. Gonzalez Home Videos said, last week, third quarter ended and we had just 1 week before our spring break begins. What's the best way to use this week without starting my new novel? Man, am I in the same spot or what? Yes. So just finished Night, end of Mice and Men. And I have 1 week before I take my students to Belize for the following week. And I don't want to start something new because, you know, kids can't remember their locker combination after a 3-day weekend. So I think what I'm going to do is a poetry unit. And I think I'm going to mix it up with my friend Jonathan, whose last name I'm going to butcher if I try and say it aloud, sent me this really great lesson that blends stuff from Austin Kleon's book, Steal Like an Artist, and has the kids do blackout poetry, talks about graffiti art, talks about poetry. So I might do like a quick lesson around that. Plus it's a really interesting lesson that will take only a week. If you want me to email that to you, I'd be more than happy to share that lesson with you. Just email me at realrapwiththereynolds, because it's from the old channel name, at gmail.com, and I'll hook it up. And that's anybody else that wants that too. Just email me. I'll send that right out to you and I'll hook it up and then you'll have that. So that's what I would do. There's also, you could pick like a short story to do. In my class, something like The Most Dangerous Game, which is like a story that the kids don't think they're going to like, but if you can break it down and you can connect it with a few movies and stuff like that, like movie clips, it's a really fun story and it takes about a week to do. So that's what I would do instead of going into your next novel. Is this next question?
Yeah, they go together. So
Tracy's?
Yeah.
So Tracy Pinter is asking, I might read them. I might read them out of order, but I'll just
read the top one first.
Top one first?
Yes.
Thanks. I'm so glad you're here. Any ideas on how to work with grade level teachers that do not care, have told students that they do not, and have told students are quitting as soon as they find another job? This is making my job much harder and affecting my students behaviorally, academically, and emotionally. Tracy, so what do I think about that? I would say, one, it should use it to your advantage is how I would do it. I once had a teacher down the hall from me that was very, very tough on the kids and would, I mean, not just one, I've had any number of teachers like this, but there's one person I'm thinking of in particular that I really liked because he was really hard on the kids, but the kids would just lose their minds in his class. And so they kept coming to my class and being all worked up, being aggravated at him, coming in pissed off. And so I used that to my advantage and played against that. Like said things like, all right, let's check ourselves when you come in, right? Like we're not in that class anymore. Let's maybe talk about some of the things that were bothering you and have that moment, build it in, right? Where you're doing like, maybe you do like a breathing exercise. Maybe you play a song and just have everyone close their eyes and you read something that they can sort of like imagine in their heads. These are all things that I've done. I've done like poetry out loud where like I'll play a poem. There's a really great poem called A Finger, Two Dots, and Me by Derek Brown that I do this imagery lesson with, where I have the kids close their eyes, listen to the poem, and then I have them imagine something afterwards. So what you're teaching is kids to like calm themselves, to center themselves again, but then talking about the importance of why you plan on continuing to be at this school, that you're not planning on leaving. And I think teaching kids that, like, having them realize your level of buy-in is really crucial, because then you get to win every time someone else doesn't stay. This time of year, especially if you're in, I don't want to keep like pigeonholing Title I schools, but in a school like a Title I school where a lot of the teachers are leaving, I get a lot of kids that come in and ask me every year, like, are you leaving, Reynolds? Are you leaving? And to let them know, nope, I'm not planning on leaving, and I'm not planning on leaving anytime soon. Doesn't make me better than anyone else. I'm not trying to be, act like I'm ride or die when the other teachers aren't. I'm not saying that. I don't know why they're leaving, but in your particular situation, I'd totally play that card against someone like that, because you are, it's fine to leave, but to let the kids know how aggravated you are, that the school sucks or whatever, and that's why you're leaving, that's just kind of sucks. And I'd maybe even talk to those teachers and be like, hey, can you dial down a little bit? Because it's really, I'm sorry you're having such a hard time here, but it's what you're doing is not healthy for the kids. And I think that conversation could work either. And if it doesn't work, who cares? They're leaving anyway. Jessica Strong, I made you laugh again. I'm going to keep tally marks. Jessica Strong is asking, hi there. I have a student who's scared of me. I have a student who is scared of me, and I'm trying to make him comfortable. He's super attached to his mom and is anxious to come into the room. When he does join, he sits in the corner. That's a really, okay. The next comment part of that are there any ideas that can help me to get him comfortable in joining with classroom activities? I think he may have special needs as well. Yes, that's a really interesting question. I would say, Jessica, that I would do a couple of ideas I have. One, maybe he has a job in the classroom, and I'm not sure how old your student is, but even my older guys that are in 9th grade, I like to give jobs to. And if you can, especially if he's younger, he might believe this a little bit more, but have him believe that job is crucial, right? Like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you're here. Can you help me, get these papers to where they need to be? Or every day he comes in and he like cleans the board or claps out the erasers or does like turn something on, whatever that job is, you just make it sound like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you're here because like, you're my guy. You're like the guy that does this. And I do this a lot with the older guys too, where I have a student, my guy, Kyle, he's awesome. Kyle comes in every day and asks if there's anything he can do to help. So a lot of times I just don't do stuff because I know Kyle's going to show up and hook it up as soon as he gets there. And I get to give him something to do. It helps him to feel like he's a part of the school and lets him actually be a part of the school. I'm not just trying to like pull the wool over his eyes, which I don't know why anyone pulls wool over people's eyes to begin with. It's weird saying, but I think that giving kids something like that to do could really help. I think also learning more about him. Maybe you just spend time like eating lunch with him, going to the lunchroom, maybe walking out with him at the end of the day or meeting him at the front of the school or in the hallway and being like excited, for him to go home and tell him that you can't wait to see him tomorrow. You're so excited that he's there today. Maybe you give him a little something special on his desk and say, hey, I thought of you the other day because we were talking about, you said you love the Avengers and I saw this thing at the dollar store, these stickers, and I just thought I would pick them up for you. So something like that is a super easy way to get kids to feel more comfortable. In short, sometimes these things just take a little bit of time. Like you have to like just show the kid over and over and over and over again that these are the things that you're trying to do to like help them out and that you're always going to be there and that you really do care. And then that helps also. The one other suggestion I would do, if there's a good group of kids in your class that you think you can get him connected into, students usually don't show up for teachers in the class, but they'll always come in if their friends are there. And if they're, kids are often not disappointed that the teacher's not there, but if their friend's not there one day, that hurts them. So maybe getting him connected with even one other student could be a really great thing in your classroom as well.
I can't touch it because I kind of deleted it by accident.
Oh, all right. So Danny Corradetti, my wife accidentally erased your comment. So I think I can read it on here. Here's a question. I'm also a student teacher coming to the end of my time with the kids. We're all sad and they're stressed with their critical papers. Second part of that question is, so how do I help them through while simultaneously giving the class back to my CT who are their vocal that they don't love? I would do the same sort of thing. I would write them letters or maybe make a video for them or something along those lines. Also, who's to say that you can't come back, right? Like, can you come back and visit and say like, hey, I'm leaving, but I'll be back next Friday, or I'll be at your game this weekend, or there's a play coming up and if everyone's going to be at the play, like I'm going to be there too. Like maybe we can hang out before or after the play and just catch up and I can hear about what's going on so that that cutoff isn't so cut and dry that you are building in a meetup again. And I don't know how old your students are. I don't know how comfortable you feel with like maybe meeting up at like, hey, I'm going to be at this diner on Saturday, or I'm getting coffee at this place. Like if anyone wants to come there, you're in public. It's not like you're having them over to your house or something like that, or meeting them somewhere secluded, like, hey, be at the swamp at midnight on Sunday, which is a weird thing. Don't anyone ever do that, even people in Florida, because you guys have swamps. It's the only thing I can think of. But that could be a fun idea also, and a way for them to you're kind of like weaning them off of you and handing them back to the teacher. But under no means would I make it sound like it's going to be a drag when that new teacher comes up. Like, hey, she had a break and like, I'm sure she has some new ideas. It could be really fun. Like, make it the best that you can. Like maybe you could guilt them a little bit into it and say, hey, for me, like I want to leave and have it be like on good terms. So like cut her some slack and give her a chance in class. Like you just don't know what that's going to be. And we're going to meet each other at this time and this day again.
All right. It's like 3 comments.
All right.
So that's the first one.
So Mr. S Does Music says, hey, dude, this is the first time I've made it to teacher talk and I have a deep situation and need of advice. Well, I'm glad that you made it. So today I found a note from a student in my jacket pocket, more of a long letter. I can't give details, but the student talks a lot about several problems he's having in life. He says he trusts me, but how should I approach this? Was there a third part you said to that also? I'm not sure when he left the note, but he didn't give it to me in person. I've had some disclosure, but this is something else. Any advice for handling this kid's problems effectively? So I would say this. I'm not sure where you're from or how your school views this sort of thing, but I have had kids in the past tell me a lot of crazy stuff, like things that were going on at home, things that they thought about doing to themselves, someone coming and saying like my friend is cutting themselves, or they are like in an abusive relationship with a boyfriend or a girlfriend or something like that. So I'd say the first thing that you need to do is let someone know, right? So whether it's an administrator or someone on the support staff or, a social worker, I'm not sure what that looks like in your school, because legally, if something happens, if something goes down, you could really get in trouble for not disclosing that information. And students need to know that it's not a ratting thing, that what you're doing. So I've had students come back to me that were like, how could you tell on me? Like, I thought you trusted me and I trusted you and I wouldn't have told anyone if I, that kids need to know that your safety is my biggest concern. I did what I thought was necessary. I will always keep, certain things close to my heart. Like the kids know that I'm not just going to run off and tell anyone stuff that's going on. But if I think that it's something that has that child's safety is involved, like if maybe mom is being too rough at home, maybe dad left, maybe the kid's all alone. Maybe I've had students that were homeless before. You have to go and tell someone about that. And then I think the bigger discussion in that is, do they understand why you did what you did? Do they understand that you really, really care? And I think it's really important to let kids know that what an honor it is that they shared that information with you. They didn't just go tell everyone. They're not running around blabbing to everyone in the building, but they trusted you. And how incredibly brave that must have been to write that down, how hard that must have been to write that thing down and then hide it in someone's pocket, hoping that they were going to find it, not knowing if they found it. Did he find it yet? Did he read it yet? He hasn't said anything to me. How do I know if he got it? What if it got lost in the wash? What if it fell out of his pocket? Like, that took a lot of bravery. And I think just telling kids that, you know, I'm noting your bravery, and I'm noting, like, you should know that I'm totally honored and love that you came and talked to me about this. So let's see what we can do about that. And maybe if it's okay with the school, I'm not sure what their policies are on this, you sitting down with the counselor and the student to just be that presence in the room of someone that they are already trusting, so that you can, you're like being there with them in that moment, so that they, you know, because I feel like sometimes you send kids to counselors and they don't tell them the thing that was really bothering them because they didn't build that trust in with the counselor or with the social worker yet. And so you already having established that trust can bring that to the situation. If that's not a good enough of an answer, if you want to email me some more on that and we could talk about it, please do. But that's what I'm thinking of at the moment. And also, I really hope everything works out with that. Like, this is a hard job. Like, can we note that for a second? Like, finding out things about kids, like, you know, we're teaching content, but in reality, we're really teaching children and trying to meet them where they are. And sometimes meeting them where they are is a really messy place, and it's not easy to navigate. There's like no cookie cutter answer for any of this stuff. So good to you, or good for you for like being that kind of teacher for your kid. Indie Kitty asked, how do you teach a movie or a book pair when the kids experience the movie first? It's the worst. It's the worst. Or if they find out you're in the middle of reading a book and then they go, oh, wait, there's a movie for this. And then they go home and watch it. And then they come in and they tell everyone that George killed Lenny at the end of the book. And you're like, shut up, dude. You just ruined everything for everyone. Thanks a lot. So I tell them, sometimes I lie. And I tell them, I don't know if that's how the book, how do you know that's how the book ended? That maybe they just ended the movie like that. Tons of times they do things different in the book than in the movie. And then we get to the end and George killed Lenny. And I go, well, I guess this book, they did it the same. So I think you teach things closer, right? So we all know that in the book, they do things different than in the movie because of time difference, or because they have some artistic difference, or they just wanted to change things. So I think what you can do is read a little bit closer, like pull things out, have deeper conversations. And so if I'm thinking of V for Vendetta, right? So I used to teach V for Vendetta, and that was a graphic novel that they turned into a movie. And the movie's really great. We used to watch that as well. But there were totally things in the book that you can take a look at a passage a little bit closer. You can take a look at a chapter a little bit closer, or really break down like the differences between the styles. Like, how did they try and take that graphic novel and turn it into the movie? And why did they choose this look that they went for? Or if it's a movie that's completely different than the book, like I'm thinking of how different Hunger Games was. I don't know if that anyone reads that, but you can really go way deeper in the book. I think it gives you more of an appreciation for the movie. Like, you look at the movie differently. So that's what I would do, is just break it down to close reading passages. And yeah, because otherwise it just stinks. I hate when they do that. I hate when the movie kind of sucks and ruins the book.
Just so I know, as an update.
It's an update. Mm-hmm. So our Woodward future teacher, that's a great name. Is that Roderick from the old days? Reading, all right. Hey there, it's Roderick. Oh, okay. I should have just kept reading. How are you doing? Just wanted to let you know that I am now certified, temporary for now, to teach elementary school K to 6. Awesome, man. That's so funny. I love, this is really great just because, for everyone, because if I've known someone online for a while, it's fun to see like people grow and develop, and like, you were a student, but now you're a teacher. Keep me posted. I would love to know what's going on. And if there's ever anything I can do, let me know. And if I can't help, I'll pass you on to someone I think that can help. My lovely middle. Hey, what's up? I love seeing the same names too. Do you fall under any pressure with state testing? I'm definitely feeling that now, and it's killing my teaching mojo. Any advice on overcoming this? So state testing sucks. It's a super drag, and a lot of schools get you to try and like teach to the test. And this is a big thing in the teaching community all the time. Like, you know, how do we not teach to the test? I think a couple of things. So, because I'm not exactly sure what's kind of bumming you out, if it's the actual taking of the test or if it's the preparation for taking the test or if it's all of it. I don't make any bones about like when I have to like literally teach something that I know is going to be on the test or how to take the test. I just let it be known like, hey man, this isn't the greatest thing ever. We're going to get through it together because we got to play the game, right? And part of the game is taking the test. And in certain states, you have to pass the state test to even graduate high school. Otherwise, they give you something like a certificate of attendance, which essentially says, hey, great job for coming to high school. Sorry you couldn't pass the basic skills test, and now you are going to, you know, hate yourself. Or I don't know what they do. But I don't, sometimes I just don't try to even like jazz it up any. Other times, you just build breaks in there, right? So if you're prepping for something, maybe you have like a fun game in the middle of it, or you put music on and kids dance, or you know, do something. I don't know. I do all kinds of weird stuff.
Review.
Yeah. I really just like, I just like the idea of kids eating cereal and giving out snacks. I think it just makes everything better. But I think sometimes just noting the moment, right? Teachers that try and teach unfun content, knowing that it's unfun for them, knowing that it's unfun for the students, and just plowing through it, like at least note the moment. This kind of sucks. Let's do it anyway, and let's do it together. In terms of the test, I built, and I'm not sure everyone's supposed to do this. I'm not even sure I'm supposed to do this all the time, but in those bathroom breaks in the middle, I try and get kids up and get kids moving or doing something that's fun or funny. I have a whole drawer, and I have a couple of suitcases labeled weird stuff, and then another suitcase that's labeled weirder stuff that I keep goofy stuff in there, like these slingshots that I got at Target one time. They think they sell them at the dollar store. Also, they have these like little yellow balls with a happy face on it, and kids got to try and catch them. Or I'll set up buckets in the front of my room, and you got to try and shoot them in. And if you do, you get a prize. Or one of my favorite games in the last year that I got from my friend, the Hipster Teacher on Instagram. If you don't check him out, you should totally check him out. Mr. Peck. He started this game where you throw expo markers from the back of the room and try and land them on the marker ledge on your whiteboard. And that's super fun. But the kids have to be like of a reasonable volume, and there's all these other things in play. But or I have kids like draw things. What you're trying to do is like build in a stress reliever and not just let them go on their phones or just talk for a minute, but like you do something fun that's like getting their blood going and getting them excited about something before you drop them back into the sad pit of testing. And just, you know, I think also commending kids like, hey, I'm noticing like you're doing a really great job. Not for the kids that aren't, like kids that are not doing a great job can be told that also, but like, hey, Tim, I'm noticing that you're doing a really great job. Or Caleb, like, I see that you want to fall asleep. I'm watching your eyes almost closed. You look like Garfield, but like you're holding it together. And I really, really appreciate that. Looks like you're trying. So I think that's my short answer on that. I hope that was somewhat helpful. Sarah, I don't know how to say your last name. And I see you on Instagram all the time now. And is it Busey? It looks like, I don't know. That's how I'm sticking. You think it's Busey?
I think so.
That's what Secret Wife says, that's what it is. I just didn't want to butcher it like I do everybody's name. So Sarah's asking, have you always taught in an all-boys school? How do you think your teaching style would change if you had a co-ed class? So I've not. I taught co-ed classes for 5 years in Camden, New Jersey. And you know, there are things that I really liked about that. I liked teaching girls. I feel like girls, in my opinion, were more apt to share. They were way better at helping with stuff. Boys have like zero, and this is totally me stereotyping, I get it. But like most of the boys I teach have zero attention to detail. You ask them to staple something together, staple goes in like crooked, or it's like in the middle of the page, and it's like, who's reading this like this, bro? Like, were you paying attention at all when you did this? So I liked teaching a co-ed classroom. I think the biggest difference is that my boys now are more apt to be vulnerable and to be open about things than they were when girls were in the room. With girls in the room, especially if if one of the boys liked one of the girls or vice versa, they front a lot. They don't want to talk about things. I get signals like, not in front of her, you know, like, or they'll come up after class like, dude, don't ask me to read in front of the class. Like, you know, Brenda's in there and I love her. And so that gets weird, but it was fun. I just drove them crazy, just like I do all the boys, and did all the, you know, taught them how to put tape in each other's hair and like had them do essentially all the same stuff. You know, one of the things I really like about my school now is that it's my school is about 99% African American in the inner city. You know, black men have the lowest graduation rate in the country, and I really like that I'm doing something about that. So that gives me a lot of joy in the school that I'm at now, because I know that I'm working with a population that's really been underserved and not given a chance to like really grow in the past. But yeah, co-ed, awesome. All girls school, maybe different animal. Girls have way worse fights than boys do, and they lock the bathroom door sometimes, and it's a weird situation. The Mrs. CJ is saying, any tips on organizing unofficial field trips? Oh, you know I love unofficial field trips. Would love to meet with students and parents for a special outing to a one-room schoolhouse or the children's museum this summer. Not sure where to start. So first off, I don't recommend this particular idea that I'm about to explain. I'm just saying I did it. Not sure it was a great idea. I know it worked out well, but might not be the best idea. When I worked in New Jersey, my school would constantly cancel my field trips without my knowing about it. So like the beginning of the day, my students are waiting one time. They have backpacks on. We are going on a field trip. The bus is ready to come pick us up. Everyone has lunches. Everything's in place, my sub plans and everything. I'm told that I'm not allowed to go on the class trip right before I get on the bus because there was not enough people to cover my class, or they couldn't get a substitute or whatever, so I had to stay. Another time I had friends that had just done recording. There used to be a show on HBO called, what was it called? Deaf Poetry, something like that. So I had some friends that went up and recorded in New York. They were on their way somewhere else, and I asked them if they would stop by my room in Camden to do a show. And I was told that I didn't have the necessary authorization, and they didn't have like safety clearances and stuff like that, so they couldn't come in and do this presentation, right? So like mildly understandable, but not really. So I just started doing Mr. Reynolds super secret class trips, which looked like I was going to be at the train station at 7 o'clock. If you and your parents were at the train station at 7 o'clock and you went to the same place that I went to at the same time on the same day, I didn't really take you anywhere. We just end up going to the same spot, just like if I bumped into you at the diner at McDonald's or something like that. So there's all kinds of safety problems with that, right? In terms of like, is the teacher trustworthy? Are the students trustworthy? What if it's just you and one other student show up? What if, a parent doesn't really know where the kid's going and they show up? I get it. There's 100 problems with that idea. But what I would do is start noting places that you're going to be in the summer and just put it out there to parents. Hey, I'm going to be at this place. Your kid has to have a permission slip. Maybe they can send that as a Google document. Maybe they can take a picture of it and send it to you. Maybe you can speak to them on the phone to get clearance. But I've done this in the past where in the summer I've met with students all over the place because I just feel like it's enrichment. I feel like it builds classroom, like a good classroom climate, especially if you're going to see those kids again, or if they're new kids that you haven't met yet. But like you're part of some sort of summer program. Maybe you do it with a bunch of other teachers too, so you're not the only one. Maybe you and a friend could meet somewhere. But I think that's a really great idea. Because in reality, we all know that kids have about 2 weeks built in the summer vacation before they're bored, right? Before you've played, that's a lot of hours of Fortnite that you've played by that point. So building in something for them to do in the summer, I just think helps in 100 different ways in terms of classroom management next year, school culture, kids showing up and learning about things of their own volition. Like, it's just awesome. Dope Law is asking, what are some personal affirmations that you say to yourself often? What is the greatest lesson you've ever learned? Geez, man. Personal affirmations that I say to myself often. This changes a lot. One of the things I think of often, and I tell a lot of new teachers, is I remind myself, like, what's the worst thing that could happen, right? I'm not going to, then I remind myself that I'm not going to catch on fire if I do this. So the idea there is that if you want to teach a new class, if you want to teach a new lesson or a new book, or you want to go out on a limb and like you're going to do this thing in class, but it's kind of weird, you're not sure how everyone's going to take it, I just kind of like remind myself that to not take things too seriously. Like, education's serious business. These kids are serious business. I really care so much about what's happening, but like, I can't get myself too stressed out about it. And at the end of the day, what's the worst thing that's going to happen, man? I'm not going to catch on fire. Greatest lesson I ever learned was, I've told this story before, but my first year of teaching, when a lesson really failed and the kids hated it, I asked the students what they thought they would like to learn. And I think listening to your students about what they would like to learn, letting them have a voice in the classroom, that really just helps everyone in the classroom. What you're doing is building a community of learners that are all contributing to this thing that's happening in the classroom, and you're not the be-all, end-all of what's going down in class. And matched to that would be to learn things that your students are interested in so that you can teach things through that lens. So if your kids are all real into Fortnite, I have to watch YouTube videos now so I understand what Fortnite is and why kids are interested in it and why that is a vocab word I don't have to teach anymore, because it's stuff my kids are interested in. So that's why I learn those sorts of things.
You might have to scroll down to find her other comments.
Okay, Scottish Teaching Ninja, which is still one of my favorite names on YouTube. Scottish Reaver teacher. I'm still going with it. Whatever. It has Scottish in it. I mean,
and ninja.
It's awesome. So says, hey Reynolds, new channel name. All right, I gotta really read these things before I just start talking. I have a student who is in care, 17 years. He has a traumatic past. I'm not sure what in care means, but I'm going to read the rest. Maybe? Oh, foster care, perhaps. He is very disruptive in class, and I have had to call security many times. The system isn't great, and I'm going to look for the rest of your question. He's getting worse, and he is on his last warning and could be removed from the course. He makes negative comments on the fact that I'm Muslim, and I've been told the ball is in my court. And teachers are tired of him, and they are leaving the discussion to me to remove him from the course, but I just don't want to be another person who gives up. System isn't great here. Okay, so I think I got all of that. Just isn't morally right to sit, or doesn't sit right with you. Okay, I think
she's having also a conversation
so
in there.
I think a couple of things about this, right? I do not like ever giving up on students. I like ever, no matter what. Like, no matter what you did. I just think too many kids have had too many people give up on them, and I don't want to be another one. And I'm sure that is the sense that I'm getting is that is where you're coming from as well. I don't know that students going somewhere else means you're giving up on them. It just means that sometimes we as teachers, I'm gonna go with this from both sides here, right? Sometimes we do not have the capacity within the classroom to meet the needs of particular students, right? So that, like, if your classroom has 27 students in it and you have someone in there that's being hard to deal with every single day, and you've tried every single thing that you can, sometimes kids are too far along, or they need something like an actual counselor, or they need a school that's going to help them work that stuff out. And that might look like a special school or something like that, or special counseling. So it does not all fall on you. If you can't save every single kid, like, that's the club you're in, is the teachers. We just can't do everything, even though we want to, even though we don't want to give up on a kid. But I think that being said, if that student moves on, wouldn't it be interesting if you still kept up with him on some level? What if that meant that that student saw someone that looks like you, that acts like you, not give up on them, even though they moved on, even though they went somewhere else? You still write them letters, you still send them emails, you still keep them involved in like what's going on in the classroom. And you know, I think that could have a lot more to do with the situation than feeling like you're just giving up on that particular student. And so, and in terms of like kids making fun of your religion, I think, you know, and that I am not coming, so I'm not Muslim, so I can't really speak to what that would be like. My sense though is always when kids, because kids play the race card against me all the time and tell me like I'm racist, or this is because I'm white, or it's because they're black and that's why I'm doing this. So my interest is always, well, what if I didn't give up? What if I just stuck with you? What if no matter what you did, I like didn't let you kind of like destroy me? What message would that send you about who I am, or about what people that I look like are capable of, or people that are, you know, whatever my religion is or my color? And I think that's true for all people. You know, I think that could be really interesting as well. The last thing I'm thinking of though is sometimes kids that are disturbance in class, you got to remember it can't just be about them. Or how many other kids are being underserved because one kid is taking up all of the attention. They're consuming all the oxygen in the room so no one else can breathe. I think that's worth thinking about as well. Just because you choose to have someone else move on does not mean you give up on them. It means sometimes that you are realizing that you can't do it all, and that you might not have the particular skills that are necessary, or the time or the energy or whatever it is for that particular student, and you're handing it off to someone else. So it's not like you're wiping your hands clean. You're simply saying, hey man, there's a better place for you. Let's try and find that. And I want to keep up with you to see that you're doing well. Always know that you can call me or talk to me whenever you need.
But she said that all the other teachers have kind of already done that, and now it's up to her.
I think there's a difference though between other teachers wiping their hands clean of someone and you making a very conscious decision that you're not just pushing them off on someone else. What you're trying to do is help them find the best scenario possible for them. And then you're not just getting rid of them, you're also trying to keep up with them. There have been kids in my class this year that have been moved from a co-taught classroom where there's me and a special ed teacher in the room into like a small group classroom. And they always come to me and they're like, they think I kicked them out, right? Why did you get rid of me? Because I felt like that was the best case scenario for you. I felt like you were going to thrive more in that classroom. So why wouldn't I want you to be somewhere, even though, you know, I'd love to have you in my classroom, but it's just not the right place for you right now, right? But that doesn't mean that we still can't have lunch together or hang out or talk, because that relationship is still important to me. But it's so important that I'm willing to pass this on and say, like, I don't have what it takes to be the best teacher for you right now. Ray Lenz is saying, I co-teach special education and teach with the ELA math and reading teachers. Our entire class is very rude, disruptive, and not motivated to work. They throw things at us constantly, and it's out of hand. So is that the second part of it? Any suggestions? I would say, Ray, my sense with a lot of kids that are like that is, of course, they're acting that way. Because in a lot of times, and this is me not knowing your particular situation. I never met your class. Those kids might just be terrible, and it's their parents' fault, or it's, you know, it's the school's fault, or you don't have enough resources. I'm not exactly sure. But a lot of times when I think of kids that have a lot of behavioral issues, it's because they never learned how to have behavioral issues. And wouldn't you hate being in school if you sucked at math and you sucked at reading, and you're in the 9th grade and you're on a 2nd grade reading level and you've gotten away with everything your whole life? Like, I would hate that too. And if I got away with throwing things at people, or I didn't know what to do, let me say this, not that I didn't like that line. If I didn't know what to do with my anger and I blew up like that because it gave me a sense of power, it gave me something that I finally can like put my foot down, and like, I don't want to be in school. I hate school. I hate everything about it. I can't read. I'm not good at any of this stuff anyway. So I'm going to throw things across the room. That kind of makes sense, right? Like, when you're pissed off, you do things that are not a good move sometimes, like whether it's throw a chair or pound your fist against this table or break somebody's nose. Like, we get pissed off when we can't manage our emotions, and then we blow up. So the question becomes, what are you supposed to do with that, right? Like, maybe you're not a child psychologist. Maybe you don't have a whole lot of expertise in that area, or there's not enough resources for students like that, you know, and that becomes a harder conversation. I would say a couple of things. One, are there other teachers you can kind of like, so first of all, I find that sometimes it's not all the kids in the class. There's a few key like conductors to those sort of situations. And if you can get those dudes under control, or you can get them to buy in a little bit more to stop acting like that, a lot of the other dudes will follow suit. So can you meet with those individuals? Can you meet with them with other teachers? Can you find people that they are connected to that you can talk to and try and get through to that kid? So maybe that looks like lunch with you and another teacher and that student. Maybe it looks like incentive programs in your classroom where like you're giving kids stuff if they behave. Maybe you're doing something where like you're going to administration, or you're talking to parents, you're talking to counselors to find out what to do with that situation. You know, if you've watched any of my content, you know that I really feel like relationships are king. I think that even with the worst kids, if you can somehow break through, somehow show them that you care, it changes everything, because what it's showing that kid is that you're not just trying to get them to be still, shut up, be quiet, but you're trying to connect with them on a different level. I think being also 100% honest with kids, like, bro, your reading level sucks. You're at a second grade reading level. So that's why school obviously sucks for you. What I'm trying to do is meet you where you are and help you grow so that you're not pushing carts at the local shopping center, or you're not like, you know, I don't know, whatever other crappy job. You're not cleaning bathrooms at the movie theater or something like that, because I want you to do well. I really, truly believe that you can do well. And then, you know, another thing you could do is maybe build in incentives, like you're going on class trips, and once a month when we go on a class trip, I'm only taking kids I feel like are not going to embarrass me in public and are going to get something out of it. And maybe that looks like 4 dudes. That's it. Maybe you have 2 guys or 2 girls on a trip, and you go somewhere, and that's on a Saturday, and you invite their parents. You have another teacher so you can get away with it. Something like that. I think my closing thought on this, and I'd love to be able to talk to you about this more if we can somehow figure that out so I can find some details. Sometimes it's the craziest answers that work. Sometimes it's the most nuts idea that you can come up with that gets you through. You just, at this point, like if kids are throwing things and things are going that badly, like what is there to lose? And no one's learning anything anyway. So just do like the craziest shit you can imagine and then just run with it and see what happens, right? Because everyone's losing anyway. And then every time there's a minimal amount of growth, you have to praise that. You have to say, great job, man. Yo, you stayed awake for the first 20 minutes of class. I was loving it. You sucked after that, and it really made me feel sad when you fell asleep for the next 30 minutes. But, you know, let's see if tomorrow we can go for 25 or something like that. So I think what I'd be thinking about is like the craziest stuff you could do in a good way. I don't think, you know, electrocuting children is a good idea, but, you know, water pistols don't hurt unless someone punches you in the mouth because they didn't like getting shot with a water pistol. But I would go for that. Oh, brother, I'm going to ruin your name. I really apologize. Shania? Ann? Miss Ann? Let's go with that. I hate ruining people's names. I say that all the time. It really hurts my feelings. Not sure if you've answered this, but are you taking an EF tour for your trip this year? I sure am. I'm taking EF tour to Belize. I used EF last year to go to Costa Rica, and I really have no affiliation with them necessarily. Like I don't get paid from them. I don't get paid to talk about them. I made YouTube videos about it last year. But everyone I've dealt with has been really great. They've been really focused on students and on their ability to take the trip. Everything's taken care of for you. I mean, like in terms of they let you know like when you should be meeting. They let you know when you should be, the types of things you should be packing for your trip. When you show up, you don't feel lost or bewildered. Like the kids are looked after the whole time. And you still have to be there to sort of mediate things and get kids excited, help iron out problems. Like there's always someone that's really homesick, especially the first or second night. But they really do a great job of like keeping the trip entertaining, keeping it jam-packed with activities. So there's like almost zero downtime. And I just felt very, very well taken care of with EF. So it's been a really great experience traveling with them.
2 parts.
All right. So where do we at? Do
Part
last
2.
one or 2 more? Or?
Yeah, 2 more.
Okay. Jack D. I think that was it. Happy St. Patrick's Day. You know, we like St. Patrick's Day around here. Got shamrocks and Happy St. Patrick's Day stuff. So we don't eat corned beef. Why do Americans think that we do? Like, Americans think all kinds of weird stuff about other countries, right? Most Americans probably think that the Irish only eat potatoes all the time too, but like, because we're weird. And we also think that if someone doesn't speak English, you should just talk to them real loud in the same English. Do you know where you're going? It's like, come on, bro. I don't know what's wrong with us. No one called Patty here either. Maybe there used to be. Maybe they don't talk about it. Maybe it's a secret that only we know about. And what's with the 4-leaf clover? We just love them. It's easier to hang than the 3-leaf clover. I have no idea. I don't have answers from my people. So the question is, it says, motivate me. I have a pupil I find hard to love. I don't have that capacity. Not great with silly tales and lies. Any suggestions? Look, what would I say?
Compassion. That's it.
I just think I think a lot of times the root is the most interesting part. And what I mean by that is every single person you know in your life has a story. No one just became that way because they became that way, right? Often it's easy to think that, right? You'll meet a kid's parents and they seem awesome. They come from a great family and the kid's still a jerk and you really can't figure it out. But once you really know someone's story, it becomes a lot more easy to kind of like figure out. And so I don't want to use anyone recent, but if I think of students from years and years ago, you know, finding out that I once had a student that was a total pain in the butt in class. I mean, like every day it was just like, look at me. And like, did I do a great job? Or what, you know, do you think I'm doing good in your class? And then they're constantly talking, constantly out of their seat, constantly doing too much that everyone notices them. And then I found out that like by October that student his father had been in prison his entire life. He went to prison like right after he was born, and he had never met his dad. His dad didn't want them visiting when he was in prison, and the kid's dad was getting out in a month. And so he shared that with me, and it kind of made sense to me, right? Like, of course you're looking for validation. Of course you're looking for someone to notice you, because maybe that hasn't been there your whole life. And then that kid became a real problem his junior and senior year of high school. Was very angry, was very belligerent with teachers, was like, had almost gotten kicked out by the time graduation came, and was the kind of kid that like when they graduated, everyone was thrilled that they had finally like passed on. And, you know, it was funny, his senior year, I talked to him and he had gotten in trouble for something. And usually when kids get suspended, I like to just follow up with them. And I asked him like, you know, well, let me ask you about this, man. I remember freshman year, you talked about like your dad was getting out of prison. You were excited. How did that go? He said he never even came around to see me after he got out of jail. And, you know, when you hear a story like that, it's hard to get mad at a kid for being the way that they are, right? Like something happened in that child's life that's in your classroom. Maybe if you can find out what that is, you can just let them know that, like, you know, their feelings are valid, that you understand where they're coming from. And it doesn't give them an okay to be able to do that, but it just lets them know that, like, you know, like I said to another question tonight, kids don't always know what to do with the anger they feel inside. Mr. Rogers had a really great song about this, about what do you do with the anger you feel? I'm going to link that in the description below too, just because I think it's worth it. He would say, like, do you pound some clay? Do you sing a song? Do you know, what do you do with that hurt? And not all kids have a real healthy way of getting rid of that. And does that make it a pain in the ass in your class? 100%. Does that make you want to strangle kids sometimes, or at least get one of those fly swatters that electrocutes flies that doesn't really kill students but might just zap them a little bit? Yes. Should you do that? No. because you don't know what everyone's story is. And I think just finding people's stories sometimes is enough. And if you can't figure out that story, if you can't figure it out, just knowing that they're not the only student, that like, and sometimes just like hoping and praying that someone else is going to come along that can connect with that student and can help them out. We don't have to be everything for everyone. We just have to sometimes help kids find who their someone is going to be. So I hope that helps. Let's do one more because we're at about an hour now, right?
I have 2.
Oh, you have 2?
Yeah.
So the wife just keeps finding more. That's fine. Dope Law said, do you have a P.O. box so that I can you can receive gifts from subscribers? I don't have a P.O. box yet. My wife keeps trying to get me to do one, but said, I know that you're not looking for that, but some of us would love to bless you and your family. Was that the bottom part of that? That would be awesome. I don't know what to do with that.
Email if you want.
You can email and I'll hook you up with an address. That would be really appreciated. And thank you a lot. Like it is super nice. I know now I'm going to get all, I got it. I did. I don't know. I'm too emotional sometimes. Last question is Tracy Pinter is saying, I have accumulated a ton of stuff, including supplies, over the first 10 years of my career. Any suggestions on teacher purge? My teaching assignment varies from year to year. I have 100% an answer for that. You have one more after that? All right, got it. I would say this. 1, there is a school in Africa that I am affiliated. I've taught at before. I used to teach in Zambia for a couple of months. There's a school called the Matcha School for Girls. They have 0 supplies. You could just mail it there, which is all the way on the other side of the world. But wouldn't it be awesome if they randomly got a box of stuff that would literally change their lives? And I know there's tons of schools all over the world, and even in our own country, right? I don't know where you're from actually, but even in the United States that you could send things to, and it would be really deeply meaningful. I just bring up that school because it's somewhere that is close to my heart. When I taught there, I gave out pencils one day, and you would have thought that I gave out bars of gold. Like kids were super stoked because I was in a classroom that had no windows, had no lights. The blackboard was slate, but it was like super bumpy. So when you wrote, it just looked like
a real piece of slate.
It looked like you were like sneezing on the back of a bus when you were writing on there. And so somewhere like that is really impactful. If you want to keep it closer to home, you know, I'm just thinking about that awful hurricane that I can't remember the name of because there's too many hurricanes that happened in Puerto Rico. And I was connected with a teacher. If they see this, I would love for them to reach out again. But they had no supplies. Like their whole school was completely leveled. My third option would be to hook up with, I'm going to forget their name now. Help me. Who's on the back of your shirt?
Oh, Pan.
Pan. Pan is a school that, or 2 guys that go to, that while they're still in college in Maryland, they created this company called Pan Clothing, P-A-N, and they sell clothes and they take the proceeds and they buy supplies for schools. I'm certain that they would be interested in whatever you have to look up. I can put their link in the description below. Also, reach out to those dudes and maybe they can give you a school that they are currently working with that they think would really be in need of what you're doing. And so if you do that, could you do me a favor and please let me know? I'd love to blow it up on YouTube and tell people that you did that and where they could also send stuff. That would be really awesome.
This is the
so good work for you, just not like hoarding your stuff and like wanting to get rid of it and do good. That's awesome. I love it.
This was the one that was on that comment right before we went on live.
Oh, okay. So the comment, I got a comment real quick on YouTube video before I went live. And that question was, how do I handle Chromebooks being out in class? Every year, all my 10th graders pay a little bit of money and they get a Google Chromebook. And these can be a total distraction, a total pain in your butt in class. Because kids will say like, oh no, Mr. Reynolds, I'm looking up things for class. But then you find out they're really playing, you know, Bad Ice Cream or some other ridiculous game online, or they're looking up something about that happened in sports. I tell kids you can only have your computer open if I say so. And then when the computers are, and then they just have to do it, right? Like I just walk around and shut dudes' computers. If they don't do that, I tell kids what my mom always told me. I trust you until you give me a reason not to trust you. Right now, I have 100% confidence and I 100% believe everything that you say. Once you betray my trust, now we're on a different playing field now. Right now, I'm going to think twice. Now I'm going to look at you. Now I'm not going to trust you from the jump anymore. So be mindful what you do with my trust because it's really, really important. And I just let them know that. If I have to take computers away, I'll take them away. Or if I take dudes' phones, which I do all the time, I lock them in my drawer, or I've talked about this before, I wrap them in paper towels and duct tape, or I take long, what are they called? Time lapses on my windowsill and like fill up all their memory and give them a nice time lapse at the end of the day. So the kids know I'm going to do ridiculous stuff if they have their things out in class. And that's just one of the ways that I deal with it. I think the other, probably more responsible option is you could just call home, let their parents know that this is what's taking place, see if that helps, or talk to your grade level and see what the other teachers in your school are doing. So maybe there's like a cohesive plan, like everyone's doing the same thing when they see this sort of thing playing out in your classroom.
So she has a comment about that.
Okay, so Miss S does music also said about that comment, Chromebooks use a sign. If you want to put a sign up, Chromebooks allowed. If the sign isn't up, the Chromebooks are away. This works well in many classes. That's an awesome idea. So like there's a clear visual in the class that says you may currently have your Chromebooks out or currently have your phones out. When you don't see that, then the kids cannot have it out. It's an awesome idea. I'm glad that you told me to say that. All right, I'm going to cut off there because it's been over an hour and my roast is done and I can smell it. I am extremely hungry and I'm going to go eat it now. Thanks so much for watching, guys. And thanks so much again. Just want to take this moment to thank YouTube for sending me this play button for 10,000 subscribers. I mean, but I couldn't have done it without all of you. So guys, until next week, just keep your questions coming. I'm more than happy to answer them. And I'm going to go and answer a whole bunch of comments on that last video tonight. Thanks. Peace. Now it's one of those awkward endings where I said peace, but now I'm not done yet. But now I really am. Peace.